Guys, listeners, guests, family, friends,
Everyone.
welcome, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Cook and a Coach podcast. I'm Beza. I'm the cook. I'm not the cook. I'm actually the coach.
And I'm Kenny. I'm the coach, bro. I'm taking over. No, I'm the cook. Welcome, everybody.
Another episode, quarantine edition.
Indeed.
Still using the Zoom chat. Guys, we have a great guest today. We'll introduce him later, but I'm trying to get him on for a while, and I'm really excited he'll be joining us. So we'll get to that later. Ken, anything you want to open with before we get into our segments?
Let me think. I don't have anything before the segments, but I have my cooking segment today is about seasonal produce. Isn't that a sexy, cool topic?
It's the sexiest of all topics. Dive right into it. Go into it.
Okay, cool. So the world's ending, but spring is here. So I'm trying to learn more about how seasonal produce kind of works, like what grows in Minnesota. And Minnesota has a pretty rough like winter, so it is a long season where there's no food actually growing here. So I'm trying to learn more about it. Weirdly, all the info is very disparate and hard to track down. But I figured that people hopefully have a little bit more time on their hands and can lean into like the fresh start of spring and maybe just learn some cooking stuff while everything's kind of crazy. So I just had really quick, but just a couple website recommendations for people that they can potentially try out just to learn about the food that grows locally and seasonally around them, so they can just become a little more accustomed to it. Also, if you try like cooking seasonally or using some vegetables or whatever produce that grows during a certain time of year, that can sometimes help you. It'll give you like a restriction or a limitation that's actually really helpful. So the main resource that I have to recommend is called The Spruce Eats. It's a blog. On there, I think I have to check, but I think they have a blog post for each of the 50 states in the US, and it's all about like seasonal fruits and vegetables in each state and like the time of years that they grow in and like what to look for. And so if you're just looking for like an encyclopedia knowledge of what grows around you, that might be a good place to start. So that's called The Spruce Eats. And then otherwise, besides that, just check out farmers markets in your area. Farmers markets websites can be a little janky at times, but there's usually some pretty helpful stuff. Sometimes they have Instagram and Facebook pages, and they'll post about the produce that they have. So yeah, it's tricky with lockdown and stuff, but it's definitely something to try out. So that's my recommendation. Like, check that out. And if you have questions about like what to cook with those things, you can hit me up. Otherwise, there's some like websites that you can type in the ingredients that you have, and they'll give you recommendations on what to cook. So you can do that too. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got today. Pretty short and sweet. But
are there any farmers markets open right now? Do you know of?
That's a good question. I think.
I doubt it, but I'm just curious.
I actually think I saw a post from the St. Paul Farmers Market that they were open, but they had all these safety measures for just Corona and stuff. So I think there are some that might be open, but I think we're still relatively early on into the growing season. So, but yeah, it's weird. Sometimes there'll be like winter markets where things will be open, but check that out. Yeah, farmers probably are struggling a little bit right now too. So it might be nice just if you can support them, give it a shot. It'll be a good way to learn too.
For my segment today, also short and sweet, but I think very applicable to these times is, well, I think it's twofold. One, right? Like, I think a lot of people right now, they're working from home or they were laid off or they're kind of in this weird in between stage. I don't know what everyone's situation is, but regardless of who you are, you for sure have more time, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, number one excuse I hear from people about like not working out, not staying in shape is, oh, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. Well, guess what? You got time, right?
Now you do. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not saying that you have to become like, Mr. Bodybuilder Olympia or some CrossFit champion, during this quarantine, but like you should be able to reach some reasonable fitness goals during this time, right?
Totally.
Now, if you're someone who trains in powerlifting like myself, or if you're a strongman or anything that's like very specific of a sport, obviously training is going to be much more difficult, right?
Right.
But for those of us who are general population who just want to, stay in shape. You don't have to have a facility or a gym or anything to stay in shape. You can do that within the comfort of your own home, your neighborhood. Um, if you aren't sure what to do or how to get started, um, you can find literally all of that on YouTube or Instagram, because every single influence right now, they know that most people don't have access to weights or gym or whatever. So they're just constantly posting every day on their social medias, hey, do this, body weight workout, do this workout with bands or with some dumbbells. Everything has been scaled back and modified.
Mm.
And even I was on a call today about potential grad school stuff for strength and conditioning, and they're doing the same thing with their athletes.
Yeah.
A lot of D1 athletes don't have access to their facilities, so they're just doing at-home workouts or just bodyweight workouts. So, if high level, pro and college athletes are able to do home body workouts, why can't you?
Mm.
You have the same time as them, same access to resources as them, get it done.
Yeah.
So yeah, go on YouTube, go on Instagram, go on Facebook. You can find a ton of stuff there. And also you can buy equipment.
Mhm.
I mean, whether it's Rogue, the sporting goods, et cetera, et cetera. You can buy some bands, some kettlebells, dumbbells, a lot of different equipment, and you can use that to make up your own little home garage gym. So yeah, if you have
Love
any
it.
questions about any of that and how to get started or what are some good ideas, reach out to me, DM me, text me if you know me personally. And yeah, I can, if you want some help, I can try to help you out wherever I can.
He'll get you ripped, looking
Yep.
like a snack.
Hey, man. I mean, if you're in quarantine and you're work from home and you're only working, you know, between 6 to 8 hours a day, and you're at home the other, what, 18 hours of the day,
Yeah.
you get some time on your hands to get some work done.
Totally. Yeah. Even just you could take your commute time that you normally would have and just put that towards something.
Honestly,
You can find it.
that's it. You don't need more. You don't need more than a half hour a day.
Totally.
Half hour a day, you're good. That's it. That's it.
Dude. Couldn't agree more. Speaking of things that take around a half hour to an hour, I saw the bonus episode of Tiger King this
Mm.
morning, and it was pretty interesting.
I watched it last night. What you think?
I thought it was pretty interesting because it was kind of like how sometimes you'll hear about what happened to these people later, like long after something is put together, but this is just an immediate, here's what all the backlash, all the reactions, this is like a real-time pretty much response to how everyone felt. It's pretty interesting. I've never seen that before. um,
Right.
yeah, what did you think of the people they chose for the episode?
Um, I mean, I think for me, I would like to hear from Doc and from Carol Baskin. I mean, I'm sure they both turned down the opportunity to do so, but
Mm,
those are people I want to hear from the most. But I think it's funny how like some people were like, "Oh yeah, like that documentary didn't portray what happened at all accurately," and
yeah.
then other people were like, "No, that's what happened. It was
Yeah.
accurate." So like, yeah, like different people like saying like different things or whatever. Like, okay, like
Yep.
who's lying and who's telling the truth? You couldn't really tell. I
Yep.
feel like it. I feel like it almost made things more confusing. If that makes sense.
Phase. I was in the same boat. It was just a fast track of me realizing how gullible and susceptible and impressionable I am. Because every time they'd go to a different person, I was like, oh, well, it looks like they really put together that documentary well. And then I was just like, man, they left out a lot of details, like back and forth, back and forth.
Hmm. And I feel like a lot of like things that came out in the public after everything, after the documentary was shown, like different things about each character. I
Mm.
feel like Joe McHale like did not touch on like the actual questions people wanted to know. I feel like he asked like the same like 3 or 4 questions to, like each person. But he
Oh,
didn't
sure.
actually like dive into stuff that like we wanted to like know more about.
What were
You
some
know
of
what I
the
mean?
things that kind of, well, I haven't really looked into the show much beyond just the just watching it. So like, what were some of the things you wished you would have asked?
What's the dude that's Joe's ex-husband?
I
Have
don't remember his
effed up
name,
teeth.
but yeah.
Like, I feel like there's like 1,000 questions that people on the internet had, and like he didn't ask a single one. Like,
Mm.
you know what I mean? Like, I feel like,
Like what though? I don't really know examples.
well, I feel like they talk about in the documentary how like he was actually straight, but
Mm.
like they don't talk about it like into like too depth in the documentary. You know what I mean? They talk about it, but they don't like go deeper into that and like
Yeah.
what was actually going on in his life with the meth addiction and all that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I just
interesting.
I wish they would have like dove deeper into that.
Hmm. Yeah, like how did explain yourself? How did this come about?
Yeah,
He I one thing I did like about Joe McHale, him doing it, he put in a few jabs even to the people he was talking to. Especially I think Jeff. There's a couple things he said during while talking to him that I liked that like took some balls, I think.
I didn't pick
Um
up on that. What do you say?
there's I forget specifically, but there were just even sometimes how he would introduce the people, it was just like loaded, or sometimes he would say a loaded thing and then they would cut to the next question, which I kind of liked. Like he's kind of prodding the beast a little.
They edited the crap out of the episode though.
They did that,
They
yeah,
edited the crap out of that. Like,
yeah.
yeah, like the way they cut that up the episode was like, okay, like they're leaving a lot out that we don't know about. They left a lot out that we wanted to hear, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I liked how they began and ended the episode too, because they ended it was my two favorite characters. The guy with the long blonde hair who looked like he was like he looks, now I'm thinking about it, he looks like he was one of the extras in the animated Robin Hood Disney movie, like from the town. That's what he looks like.
Yeah, you're kind of right. Yeah, you're right.
um
I know
and
you're talking about. Yeah.
honestly, and if I'm following that through, the guy at the end who was the producer, he also kind of looks like he could be, or maybe his voice, there's something about him that could kind of be in a Disney movie extra character too, animated. But I like those two, they're my favorite, so I'm glad that they had them in there.
Right. Yeah, it was. I think the idea of the episode was a really good one to have like an immediate like where are they at now. But
Hmm.
I feel like first of all, Joe McHale was like an awkward host in a way. He felt awkward to me at least.
Oh really?
Yeah. It didn't feel
Interesting.
natural at all.
Hmm. Interesting.
Not that he did bad necessarily, but just felt weird.
I didn't
I
pick
don't
up on
know.
that, but that's interesting. It is kind of a strange format just to have like just a famous Hollywood guy Zoom chat you and then just stay in the same spot and just keep talking. I was wondering if they shot it all in one day too. But yeah, I didn't pick up on the awkwardness personally, but that's interesting. It is kind of
You know,
strange.
I was wondering the whole time too.
Huh.
I was wondering if like the characters from Tiger King could like see each other on the Zoom chat, or if he
I was
like
thinking
did
the
do a
same
Zoom chat. Then
thing. See that we
I'm
were thinking the same thing.
I'm so curious if they did see each other. I wonder. Yeah, I don't know. I was curious about that. I think it would be
Yeah.
funny if they were hearing each other like talk shit about each other.
I think it's because
Like what?
probably because we have the interview coming up today over Zoom. We're like, how did they put that together? How did they coordinate all those schedules? I was
Yeah,
thinking the exact same thing.
guys. Our guest today is a comedian from Yemen to Ethiopia to the Twin Cities. It was his journey. One of my favorite comics today. The only guys maybe not breathe in a comedy club. Um, big fan of his work. Great guy, friend of mine, and glad he's on the show. Mr. Ali Sultan.
I was gonna say I had listened to the Happy to Be Here comedy album this morning, and I really loved it. I thought it was so great. I just wanted to pay you that compliment. Oh, you got it there? Oh, perfect.
There you go. There you
Sweet.
go.
Yeah.
I'll send you 3 of those for that compliment.
Oh, there we go. I'll take it. Yeah, man.
Thanks for listening to it, Kenny.
Oh my gosh, it was so fun. It was I had so many questions about like how you put it together, and it was such a fun time. It really reminded me like why I love like stand up. Like I've been watching stand-up a lot lately, and I haven't connected with it a ton. But I've listened to it like for so much of my life. And then for whatever reason, like I listened to yours today, I was like, fuck, like I remember now. This is really awesome. So
that's dope, man. What about it did you feel connected to?
Well, I liked that you, well, that I liked so many parts of it. I thought it was fucking hilarious. I liked that it had like the live element was really cool. It sounded like it was done in like a smaller club, and I really like the atmosphere of a smaller club. I think you get some cool like interactions when you do that. And I really like your style. I wasn't super familiar with your stuff until today, and I watched all of your videos and listened to your stuff. And I like that you're a storyteller and that you have these hilarious jokes, but then you leave space for sincere moments, and like you're comfortable in like quiet moments, like at a comedy show, and not everyone's comfortable to do that. So I liked having like that pacing. So
that's a very nice compliment, man. I really appreciate you saying that. Very observant. Thank you.
Totally, man. Yeah.
All of a sudden, I got all this energy to talk.
Oh, hell yeah. Sweet. That's great. Yeah. I was going to ask, when you were starting out, was it difficult to like, because when I can only assume like when you're starting out as a comedian, you just are hungry to get like any joke you can and just get a reaction from the audience.
Right.
But when you're saying these sincere moments or these like even like happy, sad type moments, like I would assume that it might be scary to like let there be a pause or let there be like a space where that's not being filled with laughter. Because normally that might feel like bombing. Like, so how did you struggle?
When you start, you're just panicking. You're just trying to get to the laugh as soon as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, shit, man. If like there's no laugh within 1 minute, you feel like the world is ending. And then I guess through repetition and just continuing to do stand-up, you just get used to spacing the punchline and not like rushing, because you get more comfortable on stage or you feel more secure. You're not like as desperate for the validation because you're like, I know this is going to work. I can take my time in the premise, even if sometimes you have like a premise that's long or a setup that's really long. And you just got to like believe that it's going to pay off at the end. And you have to also like put mini jokes or mini punchlines within the premise so you can continue the momentum. Initially it's just all about laughs and then making sure you get a laughter as soon as you can. Then the more comfortable you get, the more you can control the content, the more you can be authentic, the more you can be sincere. I feel like, to me, like comedy is about energy, right? There's a spectrum of two things. You either have your high energy or you have silence. And those are all energies, right? Like silence can be powerful because it can create tension. It can create anticipation. It's a very good tool to use. And energy is very good at its high end too. Like an act out of somebody doing an impression, someone raising their voice high, all that's like manipulation of like frequency, I guess, are good tools to use in stand up. And it's easier to go high than it is to go low. It's easy to go up there and you just yell your way through a set. So you don't really, they're not worried about the reaction of the crowd, and you were just kind of like muffling everything. A lot of people do that. It's harder to be quiet and to bring your voice low and to like, you feel like really present and kind of vulnerable when you do that. So what I've done is up to the recording of the album that last year and a half, I kind of like perfected silence in a way.
How long did it take for you to feel like comfortable on stage? Like where you found like, okay, this is my pacing. This is how I attack the low end and the high end. How long did it take for you to feel that?
Yeah, it's an ongoing process, man. It was like it's everything goes through an open mic phase. You know what I mean? Like I say, you're an act out type of guy, which means the guy who uses his physical body to embody a punchline. Like if I were to try to do that type of shit, it would feel so foreign to me and so uncomfortable. I would have to do that for about a year to feel comfortable in just that aspect of stand-up. Stand-up is, there's a lot of aspects and components to it. There's like, if you want to do one-liner, that's a style that you have to master. if I was to do one-liners, I'd probably have to give it a few months before I can get used to the timing of it and the way it's written and the way, you know, it feels. So that process is always ongoing. You know, I mean, if I introduce accents to a joke or a new accent, like last thing I was working on was like a Southern accent. I have a very bad Southern accent, and just trying to do the Southern accent in the joke felt so fucking uncomfortable. And but then because now I know how to do stand up, like I'm good at it now. I can just make fun of me being bad at the accent.
Right.
But if I did that accent for another month or so, it's gonna feel natural. That's what it is. It's just so to your answer, it took me probably 5 years to just get used to being on stage. It took me probably 7 years to like do it the way I like, authentic. Like I do it the way I talk, the way I am. And now I'm just the next 3 years from 7 is just me mastering every aspect of it. So I'm trying to learn how to do all the styles of stand up, but in the authentic way to myself. It's like while staying true, you know what I mean? Challenging myself, trying to find different parts of who I am within it, but staying true.
I love that. That's so cool. So for people who aren't as familiar, like how many times were you going up over that? Like how many times a week were you going up and doing sets pre-corona?
We're talking about Zoom? Zoom, I'm all there.
I mean, now we're out here on Zoom. We're out here on Zoom.
Zooming it up.
Pre-Zoom. We're talking the pre-Zoom era. In textbooks, it'll be like the BZ, like before Zoom. Like
before Zoom.
Yeah.
I on an average, I'd say 5 times a week at least. I have a rule of thumb where I think to be a good stand-up, you always have, no matter how long you've done it, no matter who you are, you have to continue doing open mics and continue performing. Because when you're out there and you're doing open mics and you're around people that are working, it kind of motivates you, and it kind of holds you accountable to the creative process as well. So I am very active. So I'm doing anywhere from 5 to 9 shows a week. That was my schedule, and I was a full-time comic, so still I am kind of.
Sure. But just a little more complicated now. It's just
and it depends on the week. Sometimes I have a week where I have to do like 7 shows at a club, and sometimes I have no shows, and I'm just packing it with open mics and showcases. And the difference between a showcase and an open mic and a show is like money, basically. Open mics are free. Showcases are usually non-paid, but then a regular club week, you get paid for that.
Gotcha.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because like I hear people, all these like big name comics like Bill Burr, Joe Rogan, Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer, whatever. They say like even to this day they're still doing multiple shows a week, you know, like 6, 7, 8 shows a week, you know. And it's just, for me, it's interesting because like coming from the athletic sports world, it's like you train and you have like a peak of like how good you can be as an athlete, right? But then it's a drop off and then you finish and that's it. But I feel like in the world of comedy,
you don't plateau in comedy.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very different animal, and you can never really like fully peak. You can always find another
plateau when you like get comfortable. That's how it is with stand up. You know what I mean? I'm sure it's like that with the body as well to an extent, right?
Sure.
Like with stand up, if you get comfortable, you're like, all right, I'm doing a thing that's killing, it's working, people are happy. No need to change. And then you end up like one of those guys who just has the same act from 1999. You're still doing like Clinton jokes.
Just doing corporates with those or whatever.
I literally used to open for this guy who would do like Star Wars impressions and shit, Luke Skywalker. And he would do like a Cosby impression and shit. Like not ironic. He just hasn't updated his act.
See, I've heard a lot of New York comics are like that because in New York City, it's like there's a ton of different clubs, so you can just make enough money to like live and get by doing all these little clubs in New York City. but they never travel. They never try to expand their act. They just do like New York jokes. So when they do go on the road, they kind of fall flat because they haven't really pushed themselves to work on their crafts. You know, it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, it's important to do comedy everywhere. I see that a lot. People get comfortable also within just cities. They go to LA, or they get into New York City, or they stick to one club like the Comedy Store or the Comedy Cellar, and they're like, I'm a Comedy Cellar guy. That's all I do. And then 10, 20 years goes by, and everybody makes it, and then except for them, and they go, why? What happened? Because you have to, you have to go around. You have to go to you have to kill in a small town. You have to do it in a big city. You have to do it in corporate. You have to know how to work clean, how to work dirty, all that shit. I just think stand up is like an art, but it's also a craftsmanship. You know what I mean? Like you have to learn both the art and the craft.
Why do you think that is? That because I from what I've heard from other comedians that I really like, they say the same thing. But why do you think that is, that you need just to be doing comedy in front of so many different people, so many different rooms, like all over the place? Like, why is it that comedy does better and you get stronger in that way? You know what I mean? Like, is it just the variety, do you think, or?
It's kind of like politics, right? If you're saying political views to an echo chamber of people that just believe exactly what you believe, there's no growth. You're just like, I'm right, you're right, we're both right. But then if you are to do your shit in front of somebody else who slightly disagrees or doesn't agree with you, it will at least challenge you to look into your own political views and see if they hold up in an argument,
Right.
or B, maybe learn a new perspective. So it's kind of like that with stand-up. Is like, all right, comedy should be universal to an extent. As a stand-up, you know exactly what should get a laugh, and then you also know when something is kind of like it's like if you're a chef and you get into RC with your cooking, and then people are like, they don't really appreciate what you did, they're like, what is this shit? It's just a sandwich. So
it's just deconstructed. Like all the ingredients are different spots.
Yeah, they don't know. They don't know that I combined turmeric and cumin.
They don't understand.
Yeah, so like you have that. You have the space to know that. Yeah, I kind of know more than the audience as a comic. I have to. I've been doing this for longer than that. But then you also have to. Part of the skill set is to be able to simplify that your skill set for them to get it, right? And then that process itself is a compromise, because if I just did things that I think are just funny, I probably have 10% of the audience laugh. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So,
yeah.
It'd be a selfish show. You'd just be up there trying to make yourself laugh.
It's a social art, right? It's an art of the people. Like I'm up there and there's a crowd. It's part of it. It's connecting to this crowd. So I am trying to connect. I'm not being a hack. I'm not like selling myself short or being unauthentic to get that connection. But I'm learning to compromise in a way where I don't lose myself. So if I am doing that already, I'm already learning to, again, almost appease and shit. So I have to try different audiences. And when I try different audiences, the thing that I like, maybe the thing that I thought was funny and it wasn't getting a laugh here is getting a laugh in this town. Now that I know, all right, I hate that. That's not a bad idea. It just might have not, it's a demographical thing. Maybe like this side of people get it and that side didn't get it. So that sometimes is positive that way. And sometimes they're like, oh, we don't like what you said. And you're like, you have to take a second look into that joke and see, oh, maybe I just, it was getting a laugh because it was too Minnesota or whatever. You know what I mean? You just have to, I'm talking a lot. I don't know when to stop.
Oh, that makes sorry. No, you're doing that's perfect. That's great. Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Are you enjoying the Zoom comedy world right now? What is that like? Like that's gotta be so different from what you're used to.
I mean, it's really cool to like be able to do stand up. You can see me up here, but you don't know that I'm masturbating at the same time. It's It's combining my two favorite hobbies. I can eat and tell jokes, and I can come at any time I want. I usually time it.
Two birds, one stone.
I time it at the closing punchline.
Oh, by the way, I love the subtle flex of the late show mug. Just a
Oh
little
yeah,
subtle
you like
flex.
this?
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, I wanted to get into that. So you've done Colbert. You did a Comedy Central special, right, in Saudi Arabia. Is that right?
Yeah.
Or
No, I did it in Dubai. I would never go to
Dubai.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, how was that like being in Saudi Arabia? But nah.
They're
So
bombing my country, bro. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go unless the money's really good.
Yeah. So you're half Ethiopian, half Yemenis, or like your mom's Ethiopian, right?
Yeah, so it's a mysterious lineage. You know what I mean? We're not like white people where you can pinpoint to your grandpa's dad and shit like that. You know, we don't have a tree in the
Yeah.
you know, where we grow up.
It's more complex.
Nobody knows. You barely know your uncles. You know?
Yeah.
With my heritage or my ethnicity, I know my mom's side because I grew up with my mom and I grew up with my dad. My mom is half and half. So basically, her dad is Yemeni and her mom is Ethiopian.
Okay.
And her dad and her mom met in Ethiopia because her dad was a businessman in Ethiopia. And my dad is more mysterious because I did not grow up with him, right?
Yeah.
And he has Ethiopian lineage, but they're people are secretive about their African lineage in Yemen, if that makes sense. Because they get like, there's like racism there too, where like, you know what I mean? If you're Ethiopia and Yemen used to be kind of almost like one colony at one point. Ethiopia dominated Yemen at one point. So there's a lot of hatred and nationalism against Ethiopians because they once fucked Yemen over or whatever, like 1,000 years ago, biblical times, and they still hold on to that. So for that some weird reason, and for racism and all that shit, people kind of hide their Ethiopian lineage. So my dad, now like my father's side, they told me that they're Turks. They come from Turkey, right? And that's what they claim. They're like, oh, we're actually Sultan is a businessman from Turkey who came and resided in Yemen. So I didn't buy that, so I just did a DNA test. I did a DNA test, and I'm African as fuck, dude. I'm like 55% African. And I was like,
no way.
Yeah, I'm like, that's way more than my mom's side. That means my dad is more African than my mom. I'm like, these motherfuckers are lying.
That's crazy. That's a crazy story.
Turkish. I'm 0% Turkish.
Right.
Wow.
That's wild. So I asked all that because, you know, coming from an Ethiopian household, I know that comedy is the last thing on earth my parents would want me to do for a living.
Yeah, Ethiopians are fucking assholes, man. Ethiopians are such
low-key,
passive aggressive, low-key, biggest haters in the world. I've lived in Ethiopia for 5 years. The most discouraging people in the world are Ethiopians.
Yes, 100%.
They're the most civil motherfuckers ever. They're civil as hell. Like when I lived in Ethiopia, I've never seen anyone like get along as well as Ethiopians. Like the Muslims and the Christians will celebrate each other's like holidays. It's like a really beautiful place, right? But then like when it comes to like living a dream and shit like that, they're so fucking negative. So negative.
F your dreams. F your dreams. They don't matter.
Yeah. If you could be like, I want to be a plumber, and they're like, I don't know, man. It takes a lot of skill sets to be a plumber. Your hands are kind of shaky. Like, even being a plumber they make it feel impossible.
Yeah. So I asked all that to say though.
Name 3 toilets. Name 3 toilets. See, you don't know anything about plumbing.
Yeah. So I asked all that to say is like where did your love for comedy come from, and why did you want to start comedy? Because I know that, you know, in, you know, Middle East culture, African culture, that's not something that's like necessarily approved of. So like, how did you get to that point where you say, you know what, I'm gonna go for this thing?
Yeah, I mean, well, we're funny people though. Ethiopians and Yemeni people are really funny, and two different styles. Like Ethiopians, I feel like really good at sarcasm. We were really good at sarcasm there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Talking shit and sarcasm. Yeah, like that was good. And Yemen is a lot of the like almost street like roast style, like aggressive type of comedy. So I've always been around funny people. You know what I mean? I think I've always been funny. I remember just doing impressions as a kid, like 2, 3, 4 years old, doing impressions of Mr. Bean to my family and getting big laughs and like realizing the power of making people laugh then. Not intentionally then, but I now know that I did then, right? So I've always been funny. I've always liked being around funny people. Like there's a kid named Fozy when I was a kid. He was like the funniest kid in the neighborhood. I just loved being around this kid and like listening to jokes. He would tell street jokes and I would like listen in and just have a great time. That was like my favorite thing. I've always like writing stories. I've always like took random objects from the house and created storylines and played with just random shit when I was like, alone and whatever. So I've had the ingredients, for being a stand-up. It was just a matter of realizing it. And I think when I was 15 or 16, I saw stand-up in America on the TV on Conan, and I was like, "Oh, this shit looks dope. I bet I could do this." And
who was the stand-up?
Jim Gaffigan. Me and him don't have the same style, but kindred spirits.
Wow. That's awesome.
It's funny. I actually met him like last year. I met him last year at a festival. He came and did a set at a festival I was doing. And then I looked at him and I was like, "Yo, Jeb, you're the reason I started stand-up. I'm going to tell you this crazy story. I was watching Conan as an immigrant, and I saw you, and I was like, man, this is what I should be." And he goes, "I'm really sorry about that." And he just walked away.
That's great. Oh, that's hilarious. That's a great story.
It was like I was expecting, some validation. This was such a big turning point in my life. But then as I was saying it, I realized what I looked like, and I was like, "Oh shit, I'm being a dork." And the way he just handled it, he's just like, "This means nothing to me. Have a good day."
That's so funny.
Would you say would that be like the most interesting interaction you had with a comedian, or would you say there's like one that's like the craziest or the funniest interaction with like a?
I don't think that's the most. I don't know. Stand-up comedy is weird, where like you could be not nobody and still be around people that are really good at it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like if you wanted to be a football player, you're not just gonna be hanging out with AP because you both happen to be doing a gig at a bar together or at a mall. You know what I mean? The situations are not aligned where you get to be around amazing people. And any profession is just like stand-up is the only way where you could be like a hack open micer and you're working a weekend with one of the greatest comedians in the country.
Right.
So you will tend to have a lot of interactions with like semi-famous people or famous people. I'm trying to remember one of my favorite ones. Oh, one of my favorite ones was Mark Maron. You guys know Mark?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I opened for him at my home club at Acme Comedy Company. And he was doing, I think, a Jesus joke. I forget what the tag is, but I had a tag for him. I was like, "Hey, man, I think if you do it this way or whatever, like, I apologize, first of all. I was like, "Hey, man, I have no business giving you tags, but if you allow me to present you with an idea," and he just like said, "Huh, that could work." And then he tried it, you know what I mean? And that made me feel very good that Mark Maron would consider anything I said about comedy, right?
That's
then months go by. I'm in LA. I go to the Comedy Store, and at the Comedy Store there's like a hallway where you see comics sometimes. And I saw Mark Maron. I was like, "Hey, Mark, what's up, dude? How you doing?" And then he looked at me, not sure about who I am, and he goes. "Al Franken?" And I'm like, "You're friends of Al Franken?" I'm like, No. I opened for you at Acme. And he goes, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, yeah. You gave me a tag. sometimes it works.
Wow.
That's really funny. That's really
Sometimes
cool.
it works.
That's awesome.
That's really funny.
That's so dope. That similar. Well, one thing I was gonna say is the Jesus jokes that you have are some of the best Jesus jokes I've heard. And like, I grew up in a very Christian environment, like coming up, and so like I've heard a lot of Jesus jokes, and yours are some of my favorites now. Those
Man,
are really good.
I have an obsession with cops, Jesus, and like those are like mom jokes. Like those are three things I can do hours on. Jesus, I don't know. I guess he's one of the biggest figures in the planet. How would you not be? Isn't it kind of insane to like think that he's like in the West at least the most powerful, like beloved figure, and it's just not him. It's a picture of a random dude.
Yeah.
Someone
Picture
else.
of a random dude from Alabama, probably a meth head, and you're like, everybody put that picture and him and some random white woman supposedly married, and it's all over churches, and people are like pray to a random fucking white dude. It's so crazy when we know for sure the man is Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
That's so
There's
awesome.
actually a lot of history on that painting. That painting wasn't created until like 1942 or something.
Yeah,
it's one
I'm
of the most
telling you,
like
it's the
printed
guy
picture of
with
all
the Social
time.
Security. That guy exists. That guy's probably from Arkansas or some shit.
Honestly,
Right.
yeah, probably.
It's insane. So yeah, that's an obsession with that. And I think the reason that Jesus is white is the reason there's a lot of delusional white people out
Mm.
Go on that.
well, think about it. Like if I was born into a world where I had people like, since I was a baby, people took me to like the house of God, and they said, this is the house of God, the highest point on earth or whatever. And there's a picture of God. And if that dude looked like me, dude, I would grow up to be a fucking asshole. If you tell me that guy looks like me as a child, as a child, your ego's off the roof, and you're learning that you are God, basically, because you resemble God.
Mm.
And then you read that God, God makes us in His image or whatever. Of course, man, I'd be a dick. My bio would just be biblical verses.
Oh yeah. It's funny too, because like a lot of like
My Tinder would just be like a side-to-side picture. Jesus.
Yeah, it's
like this dick.
Oh man.
It's literally why we have so much bad comedy. I think it's because people grow up thinking that they're special, and they don't know why. It's because they saw a picture of God that looks like kind of like them.
Yeah.
And they're like, I suck at school. I'm bad at interacting with human beings. I must be a comedian. That's gotta be it. And then they come and clog open mics.
I think I have a special spark. I don't know why, but
I don't know why.
Now, is it too
Indoctrinated
late?
to think I look like the Lord.
right.
Is it too late to change that? Can we go back to Middle Eastern Jesus, or is it a wrap?
I don't know if Arabs are responsible, dude. To like, they're already like too much. I don't want Arabs to also think they're God. I think that's the cool thing about like Muslims is what they do is like they don't show pictures of prophets. One of the reasons being is you don't idolize that picture and whatnot. But at the same time, people don't walk around with the confidence that they think they look like something important,
Mm.
So
maybe like the Jewish.
maybe we keep Jesus anonymous, man. Maybe more of a symbol, more powerful than a picture. I don't know, man. Maybe airbrush the fucking abs away so people don't have eating disorders.
Yeah, why is Jesus always ripped? Why does he have a six-pack on the cross? I don't get that.
Put some titties on the man, dude. Put some loose
yeah.
skin.
His beard's like too perfect too. Like he did not have like a liner back in the day. Like, come on.
Right. What barber are you going to, bro? If there's any proof that Jesus is black, is look at the face. Look at the face.
Oh, that's too good.
That's so interesting. That's got to be similar. It's kind of similar to like the Jewish thing where it's like Yahweh. It's like when it's pronounced like originally it's like a breath, like in and out of a breath, and so you're not even saying something specific. Whereas like a lot of Christians are like, his name was Jesus Christ, and like here's what he looks like. Here's like
His name
everything
is
about
Jesus.
him.
His middle name is Johnson, just
Right.
like mine.
Just like mine.
I tell
Don't
you
look
what.
into
I'll tell you what.
You like my southern accent? I'm
Yes,
impressed.
I was
tell
gonna
you
say
what.
It's not
Sounded
bad.
pretty
It's
good.
not bad.
It's coming
Not
around.
bad.
Oh,
For a
Jewish
second.
people. That's another reason Jewish people have an ego is because they're told they're promised people or whatever. Special ego.
Yo,
Dude,
that's
religion
right.
has given so many people
Yo.
egos. Jews have a lot of egos. White people have an ego. Arab too, like Muslims, and like they think like if you're indoctrinated in Islam and like go through like religious history, they make it sound like Muslims are, you know, man, the best people out there. And like, oh yeah, cool man,
Right.
Like, yeah.
cool story, bro.
Yeah.
And it's always like we used to be. Look at the kingdoms we started. We taught
Right.
the world how to wash their ass. I mean, that's good, but
Yeah.
what have you
Like,
done?
thank
in the
you.
last
Like,
5
thank you for
years?
that. We do appreciate it. But
Yeah, dude. We invented, I think, the clock and shit like that. I don't know. Soap. I'm sure we invented soap. Coffee is our thing.
Algebra.
Algebra, mathematics. We apologize for algebra. I'm sorry, people. Yeah, there's a lot of like collective pride that needs to go.
Mm,
Agreed.
And a lot of it
Agreed.
is like
totally
a lot
agree.
of it is what's the word I'm looking for here? It's
Like passed
kinda
down. Like it's just kind of like part of. I mean, for me,
you're
growing up,
indoctrinated with
their
it,
culture.
yeah, it's called. Yeah, there you go. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, you don't even realize that you have. Honestly, kind of back to what we were saying about needing to do comedy in front of different types of people and like different types of backgrounds, because you're not even aware of your perspective sometimes until you meet someone who doesn't share the same feeling.
Yeah, dude. Sometimes this is why I like doing like I do. I'm proud to say that I can do well in a lot of situations. I can do well in like really conservative crowds. I can do well in a very liberal, like, you know, progressives where like any word could be a trigger word and everybody shuts down. You know what I mean? I can do well with there, and I can do well with the conservative people who any words they're like, yeah, I knew it. Yeah, you know, like they like they take it the wrong way.
Right.
And then those two different, you know, all these different crowds bring a different side of you. And that's the key. You gotta like find people that bring sides of you and not create a new thing that's not you.
I have a question for you about just the Zoom comedy situation now, and so I was kind of curious. Like,
What I like to do is I use lube. I use coconut oil.
okay, yeah, okay. Do you like
Is
have
that
like
the question?
everybody? Like, yeah. Like, what do you use a stimulant or is it all imagination?
Sometimes I put both hands to the crowd so they don't feel like suspicious.
Oh, cool. Do you ever like sit on your hands so it just like you're just like not sure? It's just another element takes you out of it.
No, I use the elbows. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like this guy's very. Is he about to?
Is he like?
Wine?
Is this
Well,
a
why
joke
is he so
about
happy?
lifting someone? What is this? No, that was my follow-up question to that though is like, what's the proper etiquette for a Zoom comedy show audience member? Like, what is how can you tell you're doing a good job? Is it like silent? Do you put yourself on mute and you silently clap? Do you leave your microphone on? Like, what's the situation?
First of all, don't be snitch. You see a penis, you just let it go.
If there's
Don't
anything
fucking-
we've learned, yeah.
See penis, just look the other way, dude. It's a slip. It's what?
Yeah, it happens.
It happens. What I like to do. Well, the thing about Zoom is you got to be so like you got to go the extra mile with Zoom because Zoom picks up every fucking sound possible. Literally, you take a cup, you put it down, and it sounds like a World War II. You know what I mean? You move your headphones, and it sounds like somebody got shot. So like with Zoom, you almost have to. I feel like the best practice is to have a stable camera. Every time I do a show, there's a motherfucker who's just like moving just walking around. I'm like, how big is your house, man? How much room do you have to walk? It's been 35 minutes. You're still walking. Pick a fucking point, sit down. I would say just keep the camera stable so you're not making extra noises. And then I would say, obviously, make sure there's no background noises. You know what I mean? You don't have kids around. You're not, I mean, there's no, shit that can interrupt the show. And then I would say the best thing to do from there is just have a good time, man, and listen in. I have designated audiences. I'll have like 90-some people show up, and then I have 10 people be designated audiences. So most people can mute their stuff and do whatever they want. And then the 10 people work as a controlled audience who is going to keep it cool and then who is going to encourage the performers.
With the Zoom comedy shows, a lot of comedians I've been listening to hate on the idea of a Zoom comedy show because they think, well, you're not physically in front of the audience, so you can't really truly get a gauge of, emotions or reactions. But I was in yours on this past Saturday, and I wasn't sure like how I was gonna go. I was like, you know what, let me just try it out. It's a Saturday night, and I actually really, really enjoyed it. Even though it was dope. It wasn't the same feeling as a comedy club, but I think
it's the closest thing to it.
It's the closest thing, and on top of that, I think it gives comics a chance to work on the storytelling aspect of comedy. Because you can't really do one-liners, you can't really do like act-outs on a Zoom thing. Yeah. But you can practice storytelling and like that type of comedy through Zoom, and it just has the same effect.
You could. I've thought about it. I think you could do one-liners still, but you would have to learn to. You can learn a good habit, which also could be a bad habit, which is learning to not need a validation and just believing in your material if you already know it's good. See, a lot of people believe too much, and then the joke never was tested, and they're like, this is funny, I don't give a fuck, and it's horrible. But what you have to do is you have to learn that, hey, I've already done this on stage multiple times, and I know it's funny. I know the punchline is here and there. And you got to learn to be comfortable with that. And then you got to learn to time it well with Zoom, where you tell the joke and you move on. If you wait and you don't, your timing have to be good. If you hear a big laugh, chill the fuck out, just like stand-up. Don't step on it. Let it die out, because there's going to be some audio difficulties if you talk over a laugh. So chill, let it pass, and then continue. Yeah, I feel it's the same shit. You just kind of have to, time yourself with it. Of course, the tough part about it is, like, I have some jokes that require tension building with a crowd, and it requires intimacy. Mm-hmm. And they're more like thought-provoking and stuff like that. That type of jokes is more difficult to do because, I'm masturbating for one first of all. I'm holding my penis.
Multitasking is a lie, like it's hard to focus.
And so is this even art,
Yeah.
One-liner. I think I've seen people do well with one-liners. Even I've seen stories I think would work best. But yeah, even jokes would work because people just want to laugh. They're listening. They're still there. You just don't feel them.
What would you say to comics who don't think Zoom should
quit
do
comedy? That's my number one advice.
Yeah?
No, I'm just kidding. What was the question?
What would you say to comics who hate the idea of a Zoom show that could never work? Like, what would you just say to them? Doesn't have to be anything.
You're never gonna make it anyways.
But if they're top tier, getting $20 million a year from Netflix type comics.
I'm in I'm fighting. I'm climbing the ladder and shit. So for me, it's like I have no choice but to work, but to be resourceful. Mm-hmm. And to me, creativity. Somebody said creativity needs motion, and I like that a lot. This is motion. This is just keeping the spirit of stand-up alive. It's keeping you accountable. It's keeping you busy. I'm creating a new bit every Saturday for the theme shows that we do on Zoom. So I'm accountable for it. Cool. I'm still connecting with an audience. I'm still exercising the muscle of perform, tell jokes, grind, right? If you're Dave Chappelle and you are doing fucking stadiums and shit like that, obviously it's a lot more heartbreaking for your level. Because, you went from a 12-year break to coming back to being on top of the world again. And then you have to do Zoom. Fuck that, man. That's depressing.
Right.
Just you know what? Enjoy your millions of dollars for a year and come back when things go back to normal. However, can't afford to take a break.
Yeah.
You know, what I mean, some people can. I can't.
I love that quote. You said creativity requires motion. Is that it?
Yeah, so Drew Michael, I said that, and I really liked it.
Oh, that's so interesting. I really like that a lot.
Quote.
If you're at my level of comedy, or especially if you're below and you really are serious about this shit, you're not above this. You're not above this. Go fucking do it. And here's the thing about Zoom. People make fun of him, this bullshit. Zoom will save a lot of comedy clubs. Because you have to think about this. We have been quarantined for about 2 months. And it might go over for 3 to 4 to God knows when. And a lot of these businesses have a lot of overhead, or at least like they got to pay rent, they got to pay all these expenses. And they can't afford to just keep their businesses open with no source of income. And then what comedy clubs are doing, like Acme Comedy Company, is they started doing Zoom shows. And that at least will sustain them until shit goes back to normal. So, yeah, hate on Zoom all you want, but it's going to fucking save the good clubs. I think a lot of the shitty clubs are going to close down because, you know what I mean, they were kind of like the stock market, kind of artificially inflated sometimes. But the rest, but the good ones, you know, they'll Zoom will save. I hope. But then, you know, you have the comedy store, the Comedy Cellar. No matter what happens to those clubs, they're always going to be reopened because they're just part of comedy history. There's a lot of good clubs that are in danger if they don't do something.
Totally. Right. Yeah, it's similar in the restaurant field right now too. It's crazy with me. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like I said, it's acceptable if like someone super famous doesn't want to do it. And yeah, of course, dude. Fucking you've grinded for 20, 30 years. You've made it to the top of the top. Yeah, I get it. You shouldn't have to do this. But if you are, mid-level, low-level, whatever, dude, you have to look at the bigger picture. You have to keep the spirit of this alive, and you have to create content, connect to audiences. You have to also not be shallow. Like, you know what I mean? Stand-up doesn't have to be about you being ballet, you know, like the validation doesn't need to be in person all the time. These are real people. You know, when I do a Zoom show, I know that these are real human beings who blocked a certain time off the week to see us talk, and they donate money and they laugh and they all have a good time. So don't be a dummy.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was just gonna say that.
More about Zoom,
right? No. This is good. It's all good. I was gonna say that it's really similar to how a lot of restaurants are struggling, and like it probably will be that the best restaurants and or even just like the most driven chefs will find a way to make it work. Like I work for one
that might be a good analogy for it. It's just kind of like that. It's like a restaurant saying, "Hey," I was like saying as a customer of your favorite restaurant, dude, I'm not gonna order from Olive Garden because the experience of being there in person is what made it good. No, it's shitty there. It's shitty in your house. Just go get it. Support your place.
Totally, yeah. Like find a way to make it work. Like a lot of restaurants like are finding a way. Like, okay, we're gonna do takeout. We're gonna do this thing. We're gonna do that thing. Like getting creative, and that's kind of what you're saying. Like being in the moment and surviving, finding a way to like make it fun. I love that. Kind of a food related question. Have you been doing any cooking since you've kind of been on lockdown? Like, what does that look like? I read your Minneapolis Magazine interview, and it was talking about some of the recipes that your mom made, and I was really interested and drawn to that. And I was just curious if you ever make any of those or anything like that.
I'm actually I cook on a regular basis. I'm probably cooking more now because the quarantine situation, but because I'm a professional comic, I've always had my days open. You know what I mean? I'm only working at night and stuff. So at the end of the day, I usually make salmon, make Ethiopian foods, some of the stuff that I learned from my mom. She taught me how to make one of her breads that I really enjoy. So I've been doing that on Sundays. So yeah, I'm always cooking Ethiopian and Yemeni food and Indian. I like Indian spices. So I kind of also mix in my own stuff, freestyle it.
Nice.
That's dope. For someone who I'm not super familiar with a lot of Yemeni or Ethiopian dishes, are there any dishes that you would recommend?
Racist.
I know, I know. I'm on record now. No, but are there any recipes that you would recommend to someone who's like newer to it, or any like restaurants in the Twin Cities?
Nah, man. Nah, I would say like anything you try from the source first before you go on and make a bad impression of that meal. You know what I mean? So what I would recommend is like if you want to try Ethiopian food, you live in Minnesota, go to like Fasika, go to a bunch of these other places, Bole, all these places. Yeah, go there and then try. Have someone from that country recommend what you should get, and then try to recreate that on your own. Don't like make a shitty version of that and be like Ethiopian food sucks dick, dude, because I made it in Cool Rapids.
Right.
Try it from the source first. Are you guys like quarantined and like happy about it, or at least like respect that it's working, or you're 5G conspiracy?
Like I'm an extrovert. We talked about this a couple episodes ago, but I'm an extrovert, so I love being around people. But what quarantine's done for me is give me opportunity to focus on all stuff I couldn't before, whether it be like reading, whether it be getting all my workouts, sleeping a full night of rest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's giving me opportunity to like, I don't know, be truly healthy for the first time. So
good. I think that's definitely if you can only run away from yourself for so long, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's posted a lot. It's put a lot of people in timeout where they have to like be with themselves for the first time in 8 years.
Exactly.
So like it's like you can battle your demons and come out a better person, or just exponentially get worse.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I feel like it's been similar for me too. I think I've enjoyed quarantine as much as I can. I feel bad saying like, oh, it's great because of people dying and stuff, but I found a way to like kind of make it work for me. I've actually noticed like that I noticed this yesterday. Like realized that I've had to in different ways, like mentally or just socially, kind of tap out and like take a break and recharge. And I've realized that's actually been going on for like even a couple of years. And I've almost been noticing that having this extra time to kind of improve and take deep breaths and everything, it's hopefully kind of the end of this period of my life and I can kind of come out to the other side of it. So I'm excited.
That's good to hear.
It'd be good. Yeah, totally. It's weirdly like kind of a good situation for me. So
yeah.
How have you been holding up?
Shut your mouth. Ask all these personal questions.
That's good.
Like I said, I've already figured out somewhat of a routine, because with doing stand up, I'm only like working an hour a night, if any. So I've always I'm one of those dudes who need to be productive to feel good about themselves. So I've always like added a couple new routines. I used to play soccer a lot, but then my knees got kind of whacked, and that kind of got me a little depressed, because I was like, as a big part of my week was playing soccer and de-stressing and shit like that. Mm-hmm. And now I'm not sure what's going to happen because my knees are hurting. But then quarantine happened, and I was like, fuck yeah, dude. All you fucking suckers going to have to sit it out just like me. Because, you worry about them getting better. I want you all to be out of shape when I'm done healing with this knee. So that's a positive side. The fact that all these guys that play soccer would have to sit it out. But then just cooking. I bought a piano, as you see behind you. I'm gonna start learning the piano. A long dream of mine. Cooking a lot more recipes. I've been trying to do like walks on a daily or every other day. I bought a bicycle yesterday. I bought 2 bicycles yesterday. I bought a bike on Facebook for $50, and I should have not bought it, because like even when that lady, first of all, the lady was in there. She let her roommate sell it to me. That's already a bad sign. Then her roommate literally was like, because I don't want to be an ass, I just be nice and quick. I just wrote it and made weird noises. I was like, I said, hey, what's this resistance I feel? And she didn't say anything. Second sign I ignored. And then I gave her $50, and she's like, said, are you sure? And I was like, that should have been me saying, you know what? something is off here. Let me have my 50
It's
back.
funny.
He gave me an out. I didn't take it. So I fucking carry this bike. I go to Eric, the bike person, whatever that name is, and I'm in line waiting for a tune-ups. And I see a man in front of me, recognizes a man that comes out of the store. And that man asked him, hey, can you tune up my bike? How much would you do it for? The guy's like, I'll do it for 35. I was like, great. I'm going to go tune up with this guy instead. So I take his number. I go drop off the bike. And he looks at the bike and he goes, hey, man, I would not take this for free. He goes, this bike is barely junkable. And he goes, you would have to fix the chain. You have to fix this. You have to fix the brakes. It's like, would it be worth fixing all these things? And I was like, oh, fuck. He goes, I go, where's the best, like, where's a good place to get a bike? And he goes, you can look at my inventory. I have some bikes that I built and whatever. So I write a couple of bikes, and then I find a really good bike.
There you go.
That's the end of that story. So in summary, I have a bicycle.
I've been taking so many walks, and I feel kind of like an old person, just the number of walks I take on the regular. And just coming back home and being like, I saw deer today and robins and blue jays.
I'll tell you what I really love is now when I walk, I live in Uptown, is when I see kids on the streets or just people on the street doing shit. Like I grew up like that. I grew up in places where everybody was outside playing or, doing some sort of thing because there's a lot to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because boredom creates great communities. And I'm seeing a little bit of that, and it's making me feel nostalgic and happy. It's good to see kids shocking on the ground. They're playing somewhere, getting molested. I hope not.
Oh my god.
Oh my
but
God.
Besides that, we want community. That would be nice.
Yeah.
That's a comic thing where if a sentence is long-winded. And you're like, this is going nowhere. It needs a shot. It needs a shot. It needs excitement. It needs a punchline. And then you just talk about people getting molested. I'm sorry, man.
No, that was perfect. It was great. Could ask for nothing less.
To that though, I think that's one of the reasons why you're my favorite comics is because you're able to say them. You often say a lot of not a lot. You'll say some really messed up things. And so you'll say use a lot of dirty language, but it doesn't feel messed up or dirty in a way. I don't know how to package it in a way where it's you can handle it for some reason. I don't know why.
Right. I think it's if you just come at jokes with a little bit of empathy, you're good to go. You know what I mean? If you're throwing shock for the sake of shock, just to annoy people or just say words for the sake of words. It has no substance, and people don't like that usually, or people really love it. It's people really hate it, or people really love it. And both incidents, you're kind of hacky. But if there's substance to what you're saying, because the thought was honest or the feeling was honest, then go with it. That's my policy. But if I think of something fucked up and I thought of it genuinely and I thought it was funny, and I threw it in there in a joke, it's fine. But if I just went off my way to annoy and offend people just for the sake of it, that's hack territory.
Sure.
Well, this has been fucking awesome. I'm so glad we got to do this.
It's not bad, man. It's not bad. I was I came into it tired. It's like starting a motor. You know what I mean?
Good.
You're quarantined all day, not talking. Talking to people again is it takes 5 minutes to warm up.
Oh no, this has been great. I feel the same. Yeah. Well, I don't have any more questions. Baze, do you have any others, or otherwise? I feel
I had a great time, man. I like you, Kenny.
Oh, thanks. I like you too. This has been super fun. One more time for everyone who can hear. How do we go and see your Zoom comedy shows? Let's get the word out.
Dude, if you want to come, I have really good comedians on. I like people from Netflix, Conan, all that type of shit. And all they got to do is just find me on Instagram at Ali Sultan Comedy and message me, or go to my website and email me. And then I'll add them to my email list. And then I send out an invite every week for all the shows.
Awesome.
And they're free, completely free.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see it. That'll be awesome.
Oh, and I just remember, you know what? I'll share with you. You like Jesus jokes?
I do, yeah.
I have my best Jesus joke is like it's one of those like it's really funny, but it like in my career before it starts. it's I've been like hesitant to post it because I have like a clean special on Dry Bar coming up. It's like really like religious nut people, and I don't mind. Like I can filter through the crazy people and get the audience that are actually like me.
Mhm.
But then I'm worried that it's gonna cancel the special somehow or whatever. So I haven't posted the joke, but it's a really funny Jesus bit. I'm gonna send it to you personally.
Yeah, I want to hear it. Yeah, I can't wait. That'll be awesome. Yeah, that's sweet. Well, sweet. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it so much. This has been sweet.
Yeah, dude, it's been sick. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. We appreciate you. Yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, man, word of advice: don't share. Don't try to cut your own hair.
No.
I'm not going to. I'm letting you ride.
You know that because it's sunny inside of my apartment. Yeah, it's. Do not cut your fucking hair. I know you want to. I know you're trying to find some sort of change. Just dye it instead. Do not cut your hair. You're gonna regret it.
All right, fair enough, bro.
Word up. Peace.
All right, see you, brother.
See you later.
Bye, Kenny. Bye, guys.
Yeah. All right, guys. That was our interview with Mr. Ali Sultan. Great local comic. Great dude. Go check him out. I believe his Instagram is at Ali Sultan Comedy. Yeah, go check him out. He has these live Zoom shows every weekend. I think on Mondays too, actually. I was there last weekend and it was a good time. Loved it. And once this thing blows over, go check him out in person. Like I said, he's the only person who's made me not breathe while I'm at a comedy show. So
yeah, he's really funny. He also has his comedy album out there too. It's called Happy to Be Here. I think he said he recorded it last year, and that's really solid stuff. It's really funny. I liked it a lot.
So yeah, go check him out. Our socials, obviously, Instagram at podcast, The Cook and the Coach, and then Twitter at The Cook and the C1. You can find me on Instagram at Beza, BAEZA, Ken,
I'm
you got
on.
your ring, right?
Yep. So I got a couple pages. So I have my normal page, just me, is at KPMartin2, KPMartin2. Then I also have a food page that I started recently. It's just like a fun food page. I'm just posting whatever stuff I'm cooking there. So that's at Haymarket Catering. Also, I make music. And so if you want to check out my EP, it came out last September. It's called Bucket List. You can find it pretty much anywhere. Just search like Bucket List Kenny Martin and you should be able to find it. It's like singer-songwriter vibes and 3 songs. So check it out.
Guys, we know that you've been asking about getting this on Spotify. We hear you loud and clear. Got lots of DMs about that. That will be a project I'm working on this week to make sure we can get everything on Spotify. So don't worry. It's coming soon. Just hold on, all right?
So yeah, I'm excited for that.
Thanks for listening, and see you next time.
See you later. Bye. Goodbye. Bye. So long. All right.